Welcome back. This video is going to be a follow-up slash part 2, if you want to call it that, to my previous video where I did a character breakdown of all the people on the Pony Express in the game MouthWashing. Real quick, I want to say thank you so much for the love support on that video. It means the world to me. I'm really glad that you guys like me hyper-analyzing a depressing ass game. But not to get too sappy, we are here today to do a review of, I guess technically 2 games, but it's all in one, and that is How Fish is Made in the expansion pass that leads as a prequel to MouthWashing. To give a quick summary synopsis of How Fish is Made, it is a game about philosophical question of does your choice matter and what's after death? What choices we make really do matter, and if the choice even matters to begin with, or just the privilege of making the choice is a gift. And we're gonna get into it right now of the many themes of How Fish is Made. Off rip, when we start this game, How Fish is Made, we are greeted by a fish, because go figure, a fish that says, all right, you're new here. Welcome, make a choice. Are you going up or down? You're gonna have to make this choice by the end of this journey. Which, you probably think nothing of it, you're like up or down, who cares? And as you go through this game, you go through this eerie, dank, metallic something is the best I can describe it. And as you're going through this, you meet other fishes where they are also having the trouble of making the decision of up or down. I want to say the second fish, but it'll be on the screen. But I believe the second fish you talk to is a little bit nervous about what to do. But I'm starting to already pick up very shortly that the decision of up or down has some religious undertones to it. I'm getting some really strong religious vibes, but that could just be me overthinking it. Like, where you want to go, which is fine, which is great. I love a game, again, that makes you think about stuff like these kind of things. You don't see that often in games. So by the third fish, when I'm starting to pick up the religious undertone, we get to my favorite type of person in that type of discourse, or I guess my favorite fish in this case, is the overthinker. And by overthinker, I mean the Brian Griffins of the world, where he thinks he's smarter than everybody. The third fish is funny, I can't lie. He sits there and mispronounces every word to try to sound smarter than what it is, and he doesn't know what he's really saying. Like how his throne, which is a bunch of soda rings, and he's like, he was bestowed this knowledge, therefore he's not gonna share it with us because he's such greater and bigger than everybody, and we have to figure it out. Immediately, that screams, besides the whole I'm smarter than you attitude, this reminds me a bit of Jimmy. Saying his name just gave me a curse. Excuse me. That reminded me of Jimmy. It's a phantom? Okay, you're pretending to be smarter than what you are. If I can overthink this for a second, you are a Jimmy if I've ever seen one, buddy. Like when Jimmy took over as leader, he thought he was big shit. Because when Curly was no longer fit to run captain, as we know why, Jimmy stepped foot and he acted like immediately that he was the better pick for Curly. They all acted like that. Granted, the rest of the crew gets a pass because they think Curly's the reason why they crashed in the first place. Which, if you want to get spiritual and technical, sure, he's the reason, but tomato, tomato. After leaving that loser to his throne of trash, I believe we meet our third fish, who's having an existential crisis because he's been raised his whole life with his family and his bigger extended family that they were taught to go up and up only. And this is the fish that made me realize this is asking us a deeper question, just up or down. Because he said, and I might be getting the phrasing wrong, but he said his whole life he's been raised into thought to go only up his entire time. Only up. But his best friend said, nah, down's the way, and now he's confused. He doesn't know where to go. I can semi-relate to that as someone who's agnostic. I, for one, believe in a God, but I can't say I want to confirm hard belief to one religion or one belief because there's so many out there that it's hard to say who's right or who's wrong. This feels very religious. Like, your family wants to practice up, your friend practice down, you don't know what to do. And then if I'm gonna cut this into the video, and for the sake of religious people, if you're worried about what you want to practice, at the end of the day, practice what you believe in. You should not let another random fish, in this case, tell you you should go up, bro, or you should go down. Excuse my hoarseness. But that is I did not expect this game to be very like, whoa, you know what I mean? And I relate to this fish who's stuck in this place of like, I don't know what to believe in. And I think my past self, if I cut to it in the video, gave myself the answer and other people who might find themselves in that boat. It's like, if you are going to question the religion of your family, it's best to just do your own soul searching. and really find what's good for you. If it comes to being a monk, if it comes to being Catholic, or whatever you see fit, then so be it. And no one to be blamed for that. I believe all religion practices are, are legit. We here at Ramen Milk don't discriminate against belief. And I really like that about this third fish, because it really shows the everyday struggles of just making a decision as important as that. Because for some it's easy, for some it's hard. Yeah, like a lot of people are having this weird fixations of up or down. Like we had a fish act like he had to waste all the time in the world and know for certain. You don't know what's after death. You will never do. Like it could just be black. It could be a heaven or hell. We don't know for sure. We never will. And as we go further along, it gets more convoluted than that. The next fish we meet, I forget what number I'm on because the game's starting to blend together in my head, but I will never forget this fish because what I'm looking at right after. Our next buddy we meet is a fish saying how there is a sign. I can't show you. I can't show you the sign he sees, but he's foresaw a sign saying he's been trying really hard to figure out what does it mean in the meaning of it and let that determine his answer. And I like that because a lot of people would do that again in real life or in certain situations where they look for answers through various means and they'll try to figure out the deeper meaning behind it to get to their answer or get to their decision or wherever you see fit. And in this case, since I'm done beating around the bush and I'm probably past the 5-minute mark by now, that's a condom. He sees his fish friend stuck in a condom. He sees his buddy stuck in a condom. That better not what I think that is. Hold on. No, shut up. Hold on. That's a fucking condom. And I don't know the symbolism why the item in choice was a condom other than it's haha funny. But if you could think of a possible reason why a condom was chosen to show the symbolism of a dead fish in it, by all means, I'm all ears. I'm just a guy who just analyze as I see fit. I got nothing for the condom. Oh, it's been one hell of a ride, and this is barely in the game still. I love that for this game. Now, the next fish, a lot of people talk about, because this next fish is very important because it's a very obvious symbolism what this fish is. And after I re-watched my own footage, it came to my attention this fish is also another representation of something that gets more explored in the second half of this game. And for that is, we meet a fish stuck in a literal pair of gears. The fish says, "Oh man, I tried to sneak out of the system because I thought these were gills, but I got stuck. Can you help me? Do anything, but hey, don't push that big red button or I'm probably going to die." And there's no way around it, you have to hit the button. Now, the obvious metaphor that came to my head for this is Daisuke. It's literally stuck in the machine. He got hurt because of it, died because of it, and somebody used him to get to point A to point B in the game. You literally have to send Daisuke to his doom just to get through to unlock the door to get to Curly, which is double ironic because you have to beat this game to get to Curly, but that's for later. Now, when I saw that, I got really sad because it made me remember Daisuke and his tragic end. But another thing that I really just kind of noticed as I'm recording this can also be a metaphor for Curly. See, Curly tried to beat his situation the best way he knew how. For a fish, it was to swim because he thought it was gills and a bigger fish. It didn't work. And for Curly's case, he thought by being Mr. Nice Guy and play the field for everybody, it would be the best. But unfortunately, because he tried to do that, he got literally stuck in a hard place. Curly was stuck between choosing his friend, which he shouldn't have picked, or saving his other friend from an assaulter. And the big red button, now while it's not a hard symbolism, ultimately speaking, the choices we made hurt Curly in the end, no matter how we see fit. If Curly would have picked Anya, he loses a friend. Granted, that friend's a piece of shit, but again, that would still hurt Curly. And if he picked Jimmy, I mean, do I even gotta say the worst possible outcome of picking Jimmy? Picking Jimmy is mouthwashing. That's what happens when you pick Jimmy. All that happened. And I can't stress enough how great that metaphor clicks after I beat the game. Had I sat there and got it right when I saw it, it probably wouldn't hit me as hard now later because I'm really conflicted about Curly. And again, I don't want to keep, sprinkling, leading you on to the Curly analysis because you probably came in for that. That's for the second half, timestamp below if you want to skip to that part. But I can't help but feel like this game and the expansion is really trying to tell us that choices we make matter. No shit, right? But sometimes the choices we make ultimately don't matter in the end. Just having a choice is the privilege. And that's a great segue for the next fish we go to after that poor fish, which is a fish that can no longer talk for itself, but its friend, the parasite, speaks for him after he ate out his tongue. The parasite goes on and on how his fish friend is the best. He let him eat out his tongue. He speaks for his fish, and he makes most of his decisions for him. And he's such a great guy. The parasite kind of comes off scummy, sleazy. You shouldn't trust this parasite, right? And again, not to beat a dead horse here, but if the allegory is in my face, I'm gonna call it out. Was that being Curly and Jimmy's relationship to a T of a literal parasite doing the damage within Curly and making it seem like everything's fine and he's fine by speaking for him and talking for him? I mean, hell, the most obvious sign of the parasite being Jimmy and him talking for him is when Jimmy literally asks Curly, like, hey man, can you lie on my psyche evals for me? And Curly just does it for some reason. And I know the reason is Curly is ultimately a good man and he's looking out the best for his friend, but again, that's just really bad. And to really hit home how scummy and shady and shitty this parasite is to the fish, if you keep talking to the parasite, he's like, hey man, let me tell you a song because you're so cool. And when you listen to the song, the parasite is basically just breaking it down funky fresh, saying you should eat raw meat and consume parasites. They're good for you. And just like Jimmy, that parasite have horrible ideas that ultimately gets more and more people hurt and in danger. You should not eat raw meat. You shouldn't let Jimmy be in charge. You shouldn't let bad people tell you what to do. You shouldn't cover for bad people in general. And most definitely, please stand on your convictions. And that's the next fish after this. We meet an enlightened fish in a big, well-lit room. And when we meet this second to last fish in this big, well-lit room, he is what I like to call, and I see other people mentioned on the internet doing more research for this, he's the enlightened fish. He's here to ask you, all right, you made it this far, I'm gonna ask you a final question one last time. What'll it be, up or down? You tell him your answer. Now for me, this hits hard because I've always said up every time that question's been asked, because multiple fishes we've met in the past ask you, where are you going? I've always said up, or if somebody asks me where they should go, I say up or down, depending on how I see fit for them. With the enlightened fish, he says, now, did that choice make you feel better? Did you feel like it mattered? Because that's the gift. The gift is the choice itself, not the outcome of it. And that's ultimately what I feel like this game, and all the games in this category and that's tied together loosely, is telling us. Like, the choice is just the privilege in the first right. The choice is just that, a choice. And it's hard to make choices. But what isn't hard that you should follow, that the fish will agree with me on, is conviction. And that is the fatal flaw of a lot of people on the Pony Express, if we can dial back to that. Curly lacked conviction when it came with Jimmy. He kind of limp-wristed. He said, we'll get through it, we'll figure it out. Jimmy, if you play the game or watch the video, Jimmy limp-wristed the whole game. He didn't even really want to try. The only time he really wanted to try was to murder Swansea, excuse me, I read the comments, I know I read it wrong, my bad. Daisuke, he wasn't convicted on standing his ground against Jimmy, where that got him killed. Where he should have said no, he told me not to go in the vents, but he wasn't convicted. All of them lack conviction. Swanee boy gave up immediately as soon as shit hit the fan. But for all of them, they get a slight reasoning or a pass for their lack of conviction. Even Curly, in the expansion, I get why he lacked conviction. Like, after playing the expansion, I really understand Curly's thought process post. And this enlightened fish shows me that choices ultimately do matter. However, the illusion of choice is what makes us all hung up on it. Because let's ask ourselves, what is the one biggest debate in this current fandom or reviews or whatever when it comes to this game? It's, how would you handle Jimmy? We all have the luxury of making a choice outside of the situation. We're not in Curly's position to make it. I've seen think pieces say Curly should have locked him in the cryopod. I've seen people say he should have radio in the company and requested for like a space cop to pick him up. I've seen people said, me included, I've seen people say they should just murder Jimmy in cold blood and just deal with it when they get back. We all have the illusion of a choice, and that's the gift of it. But once you're in the thick of it, then it matters. That's where conviction needs to be important. Because again, as mentioned in my last video, we can say this, we can say that, we can do all this evil shit towards Jimbo here, but if you're not willing to stand on it, what's the point? But I understand where Curly's coming from. After this experience with the fish and the whole thought process of making choices, and ultimately they don't really matter because it's hard to say what's right or wrong, no matter the data you think about, I get it. I really do. I just want to say, from the bottom of my heart, if you ever been in a situation where you had to make a tough call in any life, I just have to say, hey man, I'm sorry you had to go through that. Just keeping it 100 with you, just keeping it keeping it 1000. And on that note, I will see you in the second half of the video, or if you skipped ahead, which is cool. Hi, welcome to the second half of this video, or if you skipped ahead to the second part, which is cool. This part, we're going to talk about the expansion of this, how fish is made, where it just turns to Katamari for some reason. I'm not complaining, I love those type of games. And the main objective of the game is you roll around collecting dead fish parts and get bigger and bigger. Now, the metaphor of that is lost on me. The best I can come up with out of that is you're a small fish trying to work your way up the corporate ladder by any means necessary. Yada, yada, yada. Yeah, whatever, right? Sorry if I'm rushing through that. It's just, as I am re-watching my footage and rethinking about this expansion, it really dawned on me just how well thought and meticulous Curly's whole character arc was planned. Because when you really think about it, this game's great because they made a lovable character like Daisuke. They made a relatable character like Anya and Swansea, right? And then they made the most vile character possible was Jimmy. And then you get to Curly. And Curly is decisive, to say the least. I'm, for one, before I played this game, was like, yeah, you're not bad, but it's still fuck you because, bro, what the hell? You handled that bad. But, and I mean this, like the biggest of buts, dare I say I get it now, was Curly. I really do. He is a little bit more centered in the morally gray scale than I originally gave him credit for. He is a little akin to James. Because if I can use, as mentioned, James from Silent Hill 2, if I can use him as an example of how he's truly in the center of all of it in terms of morally gray, after you realize James killed his wife most likely because she was sick and she did mention in passing that she wanted to die because of it, you go, okay, maybe you're not that bad of a guy. It's still murder. You shouldn't kill her even if she wanted to. That's still assisted. That's still bad. That's still a charge. He did it out of love. If you get one of the more neutral or good endings in that game, if you get the hate ending, then hey, I can't defend James on that. But I understand where that James comes from in the good and neutral endings, where he did it out of compassion. He didn't murder just because I'm sick of you, because James is beating himself up. Because James is constantly beating himself up in that game, where he thinks, oh man, I did it because I'm a piece of shit. I didn't love you anymore. And Mary had to tell him if that were true, and Mary had to tell him if that was true, why do you look so sad right now? And that's how I feel about Curly now, because in this expansion, as we're collecting fish, we get a surprise visit from Curly, which I guess it's not really a surprise visit because this came out before MouthWashing. It was a prequel. So we get a surprise from him, not knowing his backstory, but after you play this game, it hits differently. Curly will mention offhand about how he regrets getting Jimmy on the ship, because he says third way through the game, he goes, it was my idea, you know. I told him for the job, he'd be like, hey man, just do one last trip. It wouldn't hurt nothing. And then one last trip turned to another, into another, into another. And you can start to see that Curly shows genuine remorse for his actions. He shows remorse for being associated with Jimmy. I think Curly alludes that Jimmy was really not a friend, which no shit. And I understand Curly now. I really do. When he told in the beginning of the section, when Curly told the little dad joke about the 3 employees, that represents Curly and Jimmy perfectly, because both the 3 employee jokes, let me just say it so you understand what I'm talking about, is employee 1 gets injured at the job site. His legs are broken. His main concern was like, oh no, I can never walk again. I can't work. The second guy gets hurt. They had to amputate his arms. He's like, oh no, I can't move my arms anymore. I can't work. The third guy had his ears blown out. He's deaf now, and he jumps up with joy. He's like, yay, I can't hear them fire me anymore. which, first of all, funny dad joke, top tier, great delivery. But that is Curly and Jimmy. Curly was the hard worker, and he hates that he probably can't work anymore. His body's all deformed and shit. And before that, he probably just hates having to work as hard as he did to go up the corporate ladder, because they alluded that in the game that everybody was getting laid off but Curly. He was going on to bigger, better things, not the rest of them. That represents the arm and the legs. This opportunity was taken away from. But the third guy, who's happy that he can't be told no anymore, is very on the nose. That's Jimmy. Like, he's happy he can't hear him being fired anymore because he's probably a shit employee. Yeah, that's Jimmy. That's just painfully Jimmy. And if you didn't understand that this game was a prequel to MouthWashing, we meet more fish in the game that I like to think rep the most overt one that made me mad, and by mad I mean, God, I fucking hate you, Jimmy, was you see a dead pregnant fish with a baby on the floor. And as Katamari, you gotta roll to get bigger, and this one you have to hit consume, and you just pick up the dead baby. You leave the mom behind, but you pick up the dead baby, which, I mean, and you know, that's why I feel bad for poor Anya when I saw that, because when I saw that, my heart dropped, because I immediately remember everything that happened to her. I'm like, yeah, Jimmy, you can die. You can die, choke on bricks, drink bleach, all that, please. Bathe in razor blades, do what you gotta do. Just please drop dead by yesterday. The other fish you meet, which I don't want to say is Swanee here, but I guess it, no. You know what, I'm changing my own answer in this video. This is also Jimmy, because there is a bigger fat ass fish you meet where he finally got his birthday cake to himself. He's eating it alone and he's happy, right? He's like, yeah, I'm the big fish. I earned this. This is mine. Get away from me. I don't want to share. That's Jimmy. To the highest degree, that's Jimmy. I want to say that was Swan, but Swan never gave me energy like that. And considering the fact that the birthday cake, mini cake, where he Curly cuts the cake weird, and you know why he's cutting it weird, because Jimmy's cutting his leg later down the line the same exact way, eating the cake. That's just, again, that's Jimbo over there being true to himself. A fat ass gluttonous monster who'll eat anything in his path. And he cries and bitches moan when you consume him. He's like, no, this isn't fair. You're not supposed to do this to me. Well, it's like, too bad, Jimmy. Get in the boat. That's life. There's always going to be a bigger fish, because he's just a coward. The last fish you meet before you have your final conversation with Curly is a fish drowning in MouthWashing. I don't think he's supposed to represent anybody. I will like to add, when he's sad and alone, he said, please don't leave me, and you can't even consume him to take you with him. That one's a hard one to call. I would like to say that could be Curly or Daisuke, considering Daisuke really didn't want to be left alone, as, you know, he had put down around Swanson, the one person who actually cared about him the most on that ship in secret. I feel like that might be just a fish just to be a fish. If you think he represents anybody, I would love to hear your thoughts about it in the comment section. And now for the final conversation with Curly. I don't know what more could be said other than, man, when you look at Curly's situation objectively speaking, like, put yourself into his shoes. I mentioned this in the first half of the video. If you look at it objectively speaking, you can understand that it's really easy to say, we'll do this, I'll do that, we should have did this, he should have did that, until you're in that position. Because as we can see, Curly shows immense regret about everything that happened. He shows immense guilt. He beats himself up about it, and he knows he's at fault about what happened. And honestly, I'm really glad that's how he come off, because if he would have came off as more like, feel bad for me, I learned my mistakes, no bro, you had to deal with this, and that's your punishment. Is it a little harsh? Tad bit. Maybe you shouldn't have to be, you know, mummified and lose all your limbs, but I mean, hey, again, you gonna have to learn. And as mentioned in the first half of this game, the lack of your conviction punched you here. You didn't have any real conviction. You just did what you wanted to do. You just went by the flow, and you can't do that with people like Jimmy. You gotta stop that problem right then and there. He's a parasite. But as we see in the parasite metaphor in the previous half of this, for Curly, it was too late. The damage was done. He thought Jimmy was his friend. He was looking at the best for he could, and it caused more and more problems. And Jimmy just infected everybody he touched and seen, and it's truly sad and tragic. And I really do feel for Curly, because he really thought in his core belief that he was a good man, which he is. I'm gonna go out and say it. Curly is a good man. But if I can say something about his positivity being a problem, I'm gonna pivot into another character for who has the same kind of issue. If you're familiar with this show called BoJack Horseman, there's a character called Mr. Peanut Butter, right? Mr. Peanut Butter is a toxic, positive person. He doesn't fight, he doesn't argue, he doesn't yell, but because he always tries to do the right thing, at least in his mind, for other people, he misses the point. The biggest example I can use out of the show, if you've seen it, is he has a wife, or now ex-wife, Diane, and she mentioned how she wants a whole ballroom and a library for her when she was a little kid. And because Mr. Peanut Butter's a celebrity, he goes out and builds her all that for her birthday. And she gets mad because she says repeatedly that we see post flashback that she hates grand gestures. He didn't care about that. He just heard what she always wanted and gave her that. Now on the surface, you're thinking, she might have overreacted. That's not cool. But that shows that just because you did a good thing doesn't mean it's a good thing. And that can cycle back to Curly, right? Curly tried to do the good thing of, all right, Jimmy's my friend, and maybe there's a miscommunication somewhere. Maybe he didn't do what I thought I did. Maybe it was a hookup gone bad. Whatever Curly was thinking, he thought, all right, we're gonna handle this later and make sure everybody's happy. No, he does not get the benefit of that. Jimmy does not deserve the benefit of that. But because Curly's trying to be a positive person, that's where it leads. And I would also like to mention, because I failed to mention in my previous video, which is the fuck up on my part, but I felt like it doesn't really matter. But again, this game recontextualized everything. Curly also happens to be going through sleep deprivation, hallucinations. He's constantly stressed from work. I mean, Pony Express sounds like a shit job. It sounds like it's Amazon in space. I'm just gonna say it. I don't care if I get sued. It just sounds like it's fucking Amazon. So there's all these layers to Curly that he's probably not in the best mind to make the best decisions. But again, his decisions and his actions still have consequences. So it's not an excuse. I just understand him more post game. And for that, I would like to say to you, Curly, the character, my bad, bro. If I had to deal with Jimmy too, I'll probably lose my shit too. So I get it. I understand why you fucked up. You still fucked up and it's still bad, but I understand you. And I just gotta say, this whole game experience and the whole prequel and the whole narrative of this game, 11 out of 10. I love this. I love this. This is such a great game. Holy hell. A great story, great payoff, great setup. It's so great. I love it. And you know what? The final parallel I can do before we close out on this, the final parallel to this that's really important. I did not spoil MouthWashing on purpose, just on the off chance you haven't played the game yourself or watched your favorite Let's Player play it, right? I'm about to spoil MouthWashing how Jimmy in, because I purposely left out how Jimmy in to, one, to not spoil people, and two, if you talked about it in the comics, we can just avoid it because whatever. Curly survived everything that happened to him, right? He survived crashing, he survived his crewmates going insane in front of him, he survived Jimmy going insane and making things worse. He survived it through thick and thin, and on the best case scenario for Curly, in 20 years he will be found and picked up and go from there, right? But let's talk about how Jimmy ended. Jimmy thought he did the right thing even in the end. And to show the hypocrisy in that, when he's finally losing his mind and the Pony Express mascot is talking to him, where he repeats Anya's own words back to his hallucination saying, "We are not defined by our own worst person. I really am sorry for everything I did. I have true regret." The Pony Express mascot say, if that was true, why is your only concern him? And he's referring to Curly. If Jimmy truly had remorse, if Jimmy truly gave a fuck about what he did, he wouldn't only care about Curly. He never acknowledged Anya's problem. He never acknowledged what he did to her to cause said problems. He never gave a shit about Daisuke, really. He always was at throats with Swansea, excuse me. But he always cared about Curly after the fact he was a leader. He only cared about Curly because he couldn't hang in the responsibility. So the fact that he even gives a shit about him because he couldn't cut it out makes that funnier. Because at his core, Jimmy is a fucking gutless coward. A true spineless little limp dick loser. Again, I'm probably gonna have to cut that out for YouTube. I don't know yet. And with all that I have mentioned, do you want to know how Jimmy's story ends? He fucking shoots himself with the gun, which is ironic because Anya hid the gun from him. That's why Curly laughs when he finds it in game in MouthWashing. He finds the gun and starts laughing because he knows why Anya hid the gun, so he couldn't use it, just for it to be all ironic that he gets it in the end. And he chooses to kill himself and get the coward's way out. And I'm pretty sure the last words to Curly before he froze him, which his dumb ass probably forgot to hit the button, he says, "I fixed it. I saved everyone." And he shoots himself like the real delusional madman he is. That's why I like the parasite metaphor, because parasites think they're helping, or at least looking out for themselves. All he knows is how to infest other people. He did what he had to do and he left, like a parasite. That's why I like the fat fish allegory, because he sat there and reaped all the benefits of the attention and the role and the leadership or being number one like he wanted, but he couldn't handle it. I love that about this expansion. Because Curly is, to me, has been shown that he's a sympathetic, tragic character. Like, yes, you deserve it, but you're not a bad person. You're far from it. I would say you're one of the few good men out there. Are you a good man for how you handle it? No. But at your core, yes, you're a good man. And I'm a little mad at myself for being as hard as I was on him as I did. I'm not gonna sit here and say like, oh, leave him alone, he don't deserve the hate. I'm just gonna say, if you don't like Curly, I understand. If you forgive Curly to a degree, I understand now. I get where it's coming from. Because at the end of the day, we're all human. We're all people. And I think that's a beautiful message, is at the core, at our worst possible moments, they don't define us. And I like that. That was a bit long one. If you're seeing this, I'm hoping I uploaded this on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day. If not, happy late New Year's. I hope 2025 is going good for you so far. If it's on time, I hope happy New Year's. But that will be the end of Mouthwash for now, unless they do an update. I might talk about it later if they ever do. But by all means, please recommend me more games like this or at all. I love this type of stuff. I have big plans for 2025. I'm so glad you stuck around. Thank you for the immense love and support. I'll see you guys in 2025. It's been fun. It's been real. And on that note, peace.